Hey guys, welcome back to For the Classical Guitarist. My name is John, and in this video I'm going to be doing a part 2 to a guitar that's really cheap, but in this one I'm going to be talking about how to make it possibly sound a little bit better. If you like classical guitar content, I would suggest to go ahead and hit that subscribe button and check out other videos of mine. Anyway, let's get started. So in part 1 I talked a lot about this guitar. Now to kind of just give some quick spoilers, I got this guitar off Amazon and it cost me about $98 or so, that's including tax and shipping, and it came with a footstool, a guitar stand, a capo, a clip-on tuner, a extra set of strings, and a cleaning cloth, as well as a case. So the guitar itself wasn't even worth that much because it came with all this extra stuff as well. But as you might have seen in the last video, despite all this, the guitar wasn't bad. I mean, it did the things that a guitarist should do. It stayed in tune, it had decent intonation, and you could play it. It didn't sound bad, and it wasn't impossible to play. And I've seen tons of guitars that are just unplayable, even for more than this. So, honestly, not bad. This guitar was made by a company called ADM, which is short for All Day Music. Now, would this guitar make me want to play music all day? No, probably not, but it definitely would want me to go ahead and get started playing music, and that way if I wanted to I could invest in a better instrument without feeling like I broke the bank when I was just getting started. Now despite all of this though, there are some things on this guitar that are very, very cheap, and I want to talk about those things very quickly. So one thing that a lot of people said is that the rosette on the guitar looks pretty much like a sticker, and honestly, I think it is. If you look really carefully, I'm going to zoom in a second, the rosette on the guitar kind of goes in and it overlaps onto the fingerboard. So not only is it a sticker, but it was very sloppily made, so much so that you can see where it went where it shouldn't. The other thing is that the binding on the body of the guitar looks like cheap plastic, and I'm sure if you can guess, based off the cost of the guitar, it definitely is. Not the worst thing, but definitely something to consider. And finally, the thing that stands out to me the most that I thought was just the really cheap thing is on the fingerboard is there's this white outline. I guess it's there to make the guitar look possibly a little bit nicer, I think, make it look cooler. But honestly, to me, it looks kind of odd, and I think that makes the guitar neck just thicker than it should be. Again, not unbearable, but definitely something that shouldn't be there because the frets don't even go into the design. They go and they stop where the fingerboard ends, and then the design is outside of the frets. So again, not the worst thing, but definitely something a little bit odd when looking at a classical guitar. Anyway, that's enough bashing it for now. So in this video, my goal though is to see how good it can make this guitar sound. Now I'm going to be doing a few simple things that you could do on your guitar if you have a cheap guitar lying around. Thing number one that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to put on a brand new nut and saddle. Now these nut and saddle that I got here were actually made out of bone, as opposed to what I'm guessing is pretty cheap plastic for the nut and saddle that we have on this guitar currently. Now what makes this part of the guitar so important is that this is the thing that really picks up the contact of the strings first, before the sound is transmitted into the body of the guitar. Now this guitar might be cheap, but I'm sure that the top of the guitar is still made out of wood. Whether it's one piece of wood or 10, that part is debatable. But again, it's still wood, and you want to have the strings vibration be picked up by the wood in the best way possible. The only other thing that I'm going to be doing to this guitar to make it sound better is going to be throwing on a new set of strings. Now, as you might have seen in the first video, the strings that came on this guitar were pretty worn out and dull even to begin with, even though they were supposed to be new. So a new set of strings is going to help out a lot. Now the strings that I chose to use are going to be Augustine, Carbon, Paragon, in medium tension. So first off, thank you so much to Augustine Strings for helping me out and sending me these strings to try out on the guitar. I'm sure they're going to make the guitar sound a lot better, especially compared to what was on there before. Now the reason why I chose these strings in particular is because in my experience, Carbon strings just sound a little bit brighter. Now that doesn't work on every guitar, so for example, if you had a very bright guitar to begin with, throwing on a set of Carbons might not be the best choice. But if you have a duller, and in some cases really dull, guitar, Carbons might help bring up that little bit of extra life into the instrument. Now the reason why I wanted medium tension as opposed to high tension was because the guitar being a dull guitar sounds a little bit tight already. So medium tensions for me tend to give a little bit more of a looser and rounder sound, which hopefully will make the sound better. Now finally, the other thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to record myself playing on this guitar, but this time I'm going to use a nicer set of microphones. Now in the last video I just used the microphone on my camera, and even though that microphone isn't all that bad, it's definitely not great either. So for this I'm going to be using the Rode M5s, and I'm going to send that into Logic Pro X. And once it's in there, I'm going to use tons of EQ, reverb, and compression to make the sound even better. So in just a moment, you're going to hear a segment of how this guitar sounds with all those things being done to it. And what I want you to do, if you can, is let me know what you think. Now that you know how much this guitar costs, does it really sound like an $100 guitar after all of these things are being done to it? If possible, I would highly recommend to listen to this part of the video using nicer headphones, just so you can really hear how it sounds, not be confused by cheap phone speakers or cheap computer speakers. Anyway, let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.